For years, Matthew humiliated Patricia in public, tearing her down with sarcastic remarks masked as authority. The room always leaned toward him. Laughter followed, approval followed, while Patricia stayed silent, jaw tight, eyes forward, absorbing every insult without reaction. To everyone else, she looked broken. But beneath that silence, she was watching. Over the last 3 months, small cracks appeared. Timelines didn't match. Details felt rehearsed. Alone and patient, Patricia began to investigate. What she uncovered was devastating. Matthew was a fraud, an impostor who had built his power on lies and blind trust. On the day of the ceremony, tradition filled the room. When Matthew entered, hands snapped up in salute. Everyone, except Patricia. She didn't move. The silence was sharp. Matthew turned, his face draining as he hissed, "How dare you?" That was when she spoke, calm and precise, exposing the lies, the stolen identity, the deception. The shift was immediate. His authority collapsed, fear replacing confidence as he fled the room. Patricia felt no relief, only resolve. Justice was no longer an idea, it was a promise, and this was only the beginning. But before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Now let's understand how this story really began.
The Grand Hall at Naval Base Coronado felt airless, sealed off from the Pacific breeze outside. 300 sailors stood aligned in mathematically perfect ranks, dress whites pressed so sharply they seemed cut from porcelain. Boots were squared on the polished deck, heels locked, chins lifted to regulation height. No one moved. No one swallowed. The low mechanical hum of the HVAC system vibrated through the ribcage, a constant reminder that time was still passing, even though the room itself seemed frozen. Perspiration traced slow lines down backs despite the chilled air. A jaw tightened. A blink came a fraction too late and was corrected immediately. They were waiting for Vice Admiral Matthew Anderson, a man whose name traveled the fleet faster than orders, whispered in wardrooms and muttered in passageways. Promotions stalled under him. Careers ended. His ribbon rack told a story of command and honor. His reputation told another, far darker one. The heavy oak doors at the far end of the hall swung inward. Attention on deck. The command cracked like a rifle shot. 300 right arms snapped upward in flawless unison, white sleeves blurring into a single motion. Fabric rustled, then settled. Silence slammed back into place. Every arm was raised, except one. Senior Chief Patricia Brooks stood immovable, her arms locked straight against the seams of her trousers. The muscle in her forearm twitched once, then stilled. Her breathing remained slow, controlled 4 seconds in through the nose, 6 out through the mouth, the same cadence she had used underwater, under fire, under pressure that crushed weaker people. Her gaze was not fixed forward like the others. It was anchored to the black, mirror-polished shoes advancing down the aisle. Matthew Anderson entered like a man who believed gravity worked harder for him. Tall, even with age bending his spine, silver hair cropped to regulation length, his presence drew the eye the way a threat did. His chest was a mosaic of ribbons and medals, colors stacked with surgical precision. He walked slowly, deliberately, letting the salutes linger, absorbing them. His mouth curled at one corner, not quite a smile. Then he saw her. His stride faltered half a step. Just enough. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. A sailor in the second row swallowed too loudly. Someone's knuckles whitened around an invisible seam. Matthew stopped directly in front of Patricia, so close she could see the faint scuffs on his shoes, the careless wear of a man who did not expect to be questioned. "Is your arm broken, Senior Chief?" His voice carried easily, amplified by the vaulted ceiling. It was smooth, practiced, sharpened by years of command, presence weaponized into humiliation. Or have you finally forgotten who holds your career in his palm? He leaned in, invading the narrow bubble of personal space the military pretended did not exist. Patricia caught the scent of his aftershave, expensive and out of place. His breath was steady, confident. He had done this before, cornered her, pressed until compliance followed. He expected the familiar signs, the lowered eyes, the delayed response, the quiet surrender. Patricia did not move. A small tick flickered beneath her left eye once, then disappeared. Her jaw set, teeth aligning with a soft click only she could hear. When she lifted her gaze, it was precise, measured, landing directly on his eyes. "I salute officers, Matthew," she said. The use of his first name landed like a dropped tray. A ripple passed through the formation, almost imperceptible, a collective intake of breath, not costumes. Her voice never rose. It didn't need to. "Your ribbon rack is out of order. Campaign alignment is incorrect. Your trident," her eyes dipped for a fraction of a second, "is a knockoff. Incorrect casting. Wrong patina." She paused. "Let the data settle. Let the silence do its work. And you," she continued, each word placed with surgical calm, "are a fraud." The sound that followed was not a scream or a shout. It was a gasp, 300 controlled professionals failing, just briefly, to contain shock. Matthew's face flushed upward from his collar, red climbing into purple. A vein at his temple pulsed violently. His mouth opened, lips shaping the beginning of charges, of threats, of a career-ending order that would echo through legal channels for years. Patricia's hand moved. She brought up a manila folder, edges worn, corners soft from handling. She did not wave it, she simply held it between them, steady. The folder was unmarked. No insignia, no label, just wait. Matthew froze. The color drained from his face as if someone had pulled a plug. His pupils constricted. For the first time, his breathing stuttered, a shallow hitch he could not suppress. His eyes flicked to the folder, then back to hers. He recognized it. Whatever was inside, he knew it intimately. The hall waited. Without a word, Matthew stepped back. The movement was abrupt, uncoordinated. He turned on his heel and retreated, toward the side exit. His pace accelerated despite himself. The door closed behind him with a dull, final thud. No command followed. Arms slowly lowered, uncertain, as sailors exchanged brief, disbelieving glances without turning their heads. Regulations demanded order. Reality had just fractured it. Patricia remained where she was. Her knuckles were white around the folder now, tendons standing out beneath skin pulled tight. Only when the door stopped vibrating in its frame did she allow herself a single breath held too long. She had won the moment. But as her pulse hammered against her ribs, she knew with absolute clarity that this was not an ending. Men like Matthew Anderson did not disappear quietly. They destroyed evidence. They burned ground. They took everyone down with them if they had to. The war had just begun. 3 months earlier, the first fracture had appeared not as a collapse, but as a hairline fault only visible to someone trained to look for failure under pressure. The tactical briefing room had been sealed, lights dimmed, screens alive with satellite imagery and threat overlays. Patricia sat motionless at the table, hands folded, eyes tracking Matthew as he spoke. "Swap the clip, clear the chamber." The word landed wrong. Patricia didn't react outwardly. Her expression stayed neutral, professional. But her eyes flicked once, sharp as a rangefinder recalibrating. "Clip, not magazine." Civilians said clip. Junior enlisted sometimes said clip before they were corrected. A man who claimed decades in special operations, who wore a trident on his chest, did not make that mistake. Not casually. Not ever. Matthew continued, unaware or pretending to be, gesturing with a laser pointer. His confidence didn't falter. But when the briefing broke and the officers dispersed, Patricia noticed something else. In the corner of the room, Matthew wrapped his hand around a ceramic coffee mug. His grip tightened incrementally. tendons standing out beneath thinning skin. The mug rattled once against the table. He stilled it by squeezing harder, knuckles blanching until the tremor disappeared. Patricia logged the image away. Patterns revealed themselves to those who waited. She began staying late. Long after the administrative offices darkened and the corridors echoed hollow under her boots, she sat in front of a terminal, the glow of the screen reflecting off her eyes. She moved through digital architecture the way she moved through urban terrain, quiet, deliberate, avoiding tripwires. Reauthorization codes scrolled past. Firewalls yielded. She accessed records she was not explicitly cleared to view, but implicitly trusted to handle. Matthew Anderson's service file opened in layers. Commendations, promotions, command billets. Then the crown jewel he referenced whenever credibility was questioned: Operation Red Wings. Patricia cross-checked the dates. They didn't line up. Deployment windows overlapped impossibly. Units listed were geographically incompatible. Redactions appeared where they shouldn't have, clumsy, inconsistent, as if applied by someone unfamiliar with how classified after-action reports were supposed to be sanitized. She zoomed in, compared metadata timestamps, traced revision histories. The deeper she went, the sloppier it became. Her jaw tightened, a faint pressure built behind her eyes. She pulled his medical records next. A career like the one Matthew claimed left marks. Orthopedic consults, surgical notes, shrapnel extractions, degenerative joint disease, chronic pain management. Even the best operators carried scars on paper if not on skin. Matthew's file was pristine. Annual physicals. Minor respiratory infections. A routine appendectomy in his 30s. No combat-related trauma. No surgeries consistent with blast exposure. No orthopedic degradation. It read like the medical history of a staff officer who had never seen sustained kinetic contact. Patricia leaned back slightly, exhaled through her nose, slow and controlled. Her fingers curled once into her palm, then relaxed. The rain started the following Tuesday afternoon, a steady San Diego drizzle that smeared streetlights and flattened sound. Patricia followed him at a distance, her vehicle unremarkable, blending into traffic. Matthew didn't head toward the officers' club or any of the predictable social stops. He drove south, away from the base, into a neighborhood where the buildings grew tired and the asphalt cracked. He pulled into a self-storage facility, Unit 404. Patricia parked 2 rows over, engine idling low. She lifted a long-range lens, stabilizing it against the doorframe. Through the viewfinder, she watched Matthew unlock the corrugated metal door. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered to life. He removed his uniform carefully, methodically, folding each piece with precision. The ribbon rack came off last. He placed it reverently on a shelf. Then, he reached for coveralls, oil-stained, threadbare, and pulled them on with practiced ease. Patricia's pulse ticked faster, measured but undeniable. She adjusted the zoom. That was when she saw the wall. Photographs. Dozens of them. Base personnel, officers, candid shots, security stills, official portraits. And over 3 of the faces, thick red X marks had been drawn with a grease pencil. She recognized the names instantly. 3 officers, 3 deaths, vehicle malfunction, training accident, structural failure. Each ruled non-hostile, each quietly closed. Her breathing caught just once. Patricia lowered the camera slowly, the weight of the lens settling against her thigh. The rain tapped against her windshield in uneven rhythm. This was no longer a case of stolen valor. This was not career fraud or misconduct to be handled administratively. This was homicide. And the man wearing a Vice Admiral's stars was standing at the center of it. The fallout arrived before the echo of boots in the grand hall had fully faded. Patricia was intercepted by a junior officer who wouldn't meet her eyes, handed a sealed directive, and escorted past corridors that suddenly felt narrower. She wasn't taken to JAG. No legal counsel, no observer. The elevator descended past authorized floors into the basement of the command building. where concrete replaced ceremony and the air carried the sterile bite of filtered circulation. The secure conference room was empty. No flags, no observers behind glass. Just a steel table bolted to the floor and a single black phone placed precisely at its center. It was already ringing when the door sealed shut behind her. Patricia didn't rush. She stood for a beat, shoulders squared, cataloging exits that didn't exist, listening to the cadence of the ring. Her jaw tightened slightly. Then she stepped forward and lifted the receiver. Brooks. Her voice was flat, professional. The reply came through a layer of digital distortion, deliberately degraded, but there was no mistaking it. Matthew Anderson's voice slid into her ear like a blade drawn slowly from a sheath. "You made a mistake today, Patricia." His tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried certainty, ownership. "You think a folder full of photocopies scares me?" he continued. "I have friends in the Pentagon who owe me their careers. I have contractors who would kill for a contract renewal." Patricia's grip on the receiver tightened just enough for the tendons in her wrist to rise. Her breathing stayed measured, though her pulse pressed hard against her throat. She pictured the storage unit, the wall, the red marks. "I saw the unit, Matthew," she said. "Unit 404. I saw the photos." A pause. Not a technical one, a human one. "Commander Holloway didn't die in a car crash," Patricia went on, her voice calm, surgical. "Did he?" Silence filled the line. It stretched heavy, long enough for the hum of the building to bleed through the earpiece. Patricia stared at the far wall, eyes unfocused, listening not for words, but for breath, for movement, for the smallest tell. Then came a sound. A low chuckle. It wasn't amusement, it was indulgence. "Holloway was nosy," Matthew said, "just like you." Patricia's lips pressed together, a thin line of restraint. "You have a daughter," he continued, conversational now, "college age. UC Davis, right? Nice campus. Open layout. Lots of dark corners at night." The words landed without emphasis, without threat inflection. That made them worse. The line went dead. For a fraction of a second, Patricia didn't move. Her reflection stared back at her from the black surface of the phone, eyes steady, pupils slightly dilated. Then she slammed the receiver down. The sound cracked through the room, sharp and final. Her chest rose once, too fast, then stilled as she forced air back into her lungs. This wasn't bluster. This wasn't intimidation meant to force silence. This was escalation. Matthew wasn't retreating. He was closing distance. He was reaching beyond rank and regulation, beyond uniforms and jurisdiction. He was threatening blood. Patricia turned and left the room, her stride controlled, her face set into a mask of composure that had carried her through worse places than this. The door unlocked with a muted click. She stepped into the corridor and collided solidly with another body. Master Chief Gunny Miller steadied her with one hand, reflexive, strong, despite his age. He smelled faintly of coffee and gun oil. His hair was cropped close, silver at the temples. His eyes, when they met hers, were hard with something that wasn't surprise. "MPs are looking for you, Brooks," he said quietly. Patricia felt the shift immediately, the subtle recalibration of reality. "They have a warrant," Gunny continued. "Conduct unbecoming and espionage." The word hung between them, absurd and lethal all at once. Patricia's fingers curled once at her side, then relaxed. Her mind was already moving. Routes, options, timelines. She could hear distant boots now. Too many, too organized. Matthew had moved faster than she'd anticipated. She was no longer an operator challenging corruption from within the system. She was a target, on her own base. Patricia didn't hesitate. Hesitation was how you got boxed in, funneled toward exits already sealed by protocol and guns. She turned away from the main corridors and went where the cameras thinned and the maps stopped being accurate. The base had been built in layers over decades. Concrete poured atop concrete, corrections made on top of older mistakes. She knew those mistakes by heart. A maintenance access door yielded to a pressure point strike and a borrowed keycard before the alarm cycle could register. She slipped inside and pulled it closed without a sound. The air changed immediately, hotter, damp, heavy with the metallic tang of steam and old dust. The tunnels stretched ahead in both directions, a ribcage of pipes and cables bolted to concrete walls scarred by decades of corrosion and quick fixes. She moved deeper. Boots above her thundered faintly through layers of concrete as MPs fanned out, radios crackling with clipped call signs and grid references. Patricia adjusted her pace, counting steps, listening for patterns. Every breath was shallow, controlled. Her shoulders brushed a conduit and she froze, waiting for the vibration to settle before moving again. Her access had already been stripped. She felt it instinctively. Doors that should have opened no longer responded, internal systems blind to her presence. Digital exile. The manila folder was tucked under her arm, but paper alone wouldn't hold up in a court-martial rigged from the start. She needed the drive. The locker room was 2 levels up, reachable through a vertical service ladder that ended behind a false wall panel. Patricia climbed hand over hand, muscles burning quietly, boots finding purchase without scraping metal. She paused at the top, listening. Nothing. No voices. No movement. She slid into the locker room and let the panels settle back into place. The space was empty. Benches lined the walls, scuffed and dented from years of use. The air was thick with the layered smell of sweat, disinfectant, and CLP gun oil that never quite washed out. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Patricia crossed to her locker, movements economical, eyes flicking to the mirrors out of habit even though she knew they were one-way and currently offline. She knelt and worked her fingers beneath the false bottom. The panel lifted smoothly. The hard drive sat exactly where she'd left it, wrapped in a static shielded sleeve. Her shoulders eased a fraction as she closed her hand around it. The lights died. The hum cut off mid-breath, plunging the room into darkness so complete it felt physical. Patricia stilled, every muscle locking in place. Then she saw it, a single red laser dot blooming on her chest, steady, centered just below her clavicle. "Don't move." The voice came from the far end of the room, filtered through a modulated CUM unit. Not MPs, no regulation cadence, no authority inflection. In private sector. Patricia slowly raised her hands, fingers spread, the hard drive slipping into the small of her back beneath her blouse. Her breathing stayed even, though her pulse hammered against her ribs. "You don't want to do this," she said quietly, pitching her voice low, controlled. "This ends badly for you." A faint shift of weight. Rubber sole against tile. "The Admiral pays better than Uncle Sam," the man replied. That told her everything. She dropped. Not forward, down. Her knees hit the floor hard as her legs swept out in a tight arc. The mercenary fired instinctively, the round cracking into a locker with a metallic scream, but his balance was already gone. Patricia surged up, closing distance before he could recover. Her elbow drove into his wrist. Bones snapped with a dry, final sound. His weapon clattered away. He gasped, air forced from his lungs in a wet choke as her forearm locked across his throat. She twisted. There was resistance, then a give. The mercenary collapsed, unconscious, breath shallow but steady. Patricia didn't linger. She stripped his radio and sidearm, checked the chamber with practiced efficiency, then brought the radio to her ear. Multiple voices overlapped, sector designations, sweep timings, confirmation codes. This wasn't a grab team. It was a coordinated operation. She adjusted the frequency manually, jaw tight, 5 minutes. That was all she had before the net closed and the tunnels filled with men who wouldn't hesitate. She tucked the hard drive securely against her body, checked the hallway once more, and melted back toward the maintenance access. Going dark wasn't a choice anymore. It was survival. Patricia surfaced beyond the shadow of the base lights, lungs burning as cold Pacific water closed over her shoulders. She didn't look back. She let the current carry her, timing her strokes between swells, keeping her profile low. Salt stung her eyes. Her muscles trembled from exertion, but the rhythm held. Reach. Pull. Glide until the shoreline lights shifted from military white to civilian amber. She crawled onto the sand 2 miles south, fingers digging in, chest heaving once before she forced it down. Her teeth chattered despite her effort to still them. Wet clothes clung to her frame, heavy, draining heat. She moved inland without hesitation, feet unsteady at first, then steadier as muscle memory took over. The motel sat back from the road, a low concrete box with a flickering vacancy sign. She unlocked the door and stepped inside, bolting it behind her. The room smelled of old detergent and stale air. She stripped off soaked layers, wrapped herself in a thin towel, and crossed to the desk where an encrypted laptop waited. Her hands shook as she connected the hard drive. She stilled them by pressing her palms flat against the wood until circulation slowed. Then she powered up. Files bloomed across the screen. She moved quickly, eyes scanning directory trees, timestamps, access logs, financial transfers, shell corporations. She followed the trail, jaw tightening as the scale became clear. Then she opened a subfolder she hadn't expected. Identity records. The name at the top froze her breath halfway out. Matthew Anderson. She clicked. Death certificate. Thailand. 1998. Boating accident. The photo attached showed a younger man, broad smile, unmistakably different eyes. Patricia leaned closer, the glow of the screen carving sharp lines across her face. The next file filled the gaps. Julian Vargo. Former intelligence officer. Dishonorable discharge. Psychological evaluations flagged in red. Notes referenced operational instability and extreme interrogation techniques. Surgical records followed facial reconstruction, bone contouring, soft tissue grafts. Incremental, meticulous, he hadn't infiltrated overnight. He had built this life piece by piece. Her throat tightened as she scrolled through decades of forged commendations, manipulated promotions, and quietly closed investigations. Each obstacle removed with blackmail or something final. She exhaled slowly through her nose, a tremor passing through her jaw that she forced still. Then she opened the email cache. Encrypted chains unfolded, headers stripped, content laid bare. Naval weapon schematics, classified, restricted, transferred, in increments small enough to avoid automated flags, but frequent enough to build an arsenal. Payment confirmations followed millions rooted offshore. Her eyes tracked to the authorization fields. The approving signature stared back at her. Miller. Master Chief. Gunny. Patricia's fingers curled into a fist so tight, her knuckles burned. A faint tick fluttered beneath her eye. She replayed the corridor in her mind, the warning, the hard look, the timing. It realigned with brutal clarity. He hadn't been helping her. He had been hunting her. The warning had been bait. The warrant, the chase, the mercenaries designed to drive her off base. Isolate her, make her disappear where no one would ask questions. She sat back slowly, shoulders drawing in as if against a sudden cold. The room felt smaller, quieter. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened edge of the screen, eyes sharp, jaws set, utterly alone. The chain of command was compromised from the ground up. The man wearing stars wasn't who he claimed to be. And the one person she thought might stand beside her was signing her death warrant with a steady hand. Patricia closed the laptop, the click final. Alone or not, she wasn't finished. Patricia didn't waste time considering options that no longer existed. Civilian law enforcement was compromised by proximity alone. Warrants, jurisdictional courtesy, and sealed indictments would all funnel back to the same hands. Miller's hands. She accepted that reality with the same quiet finality she applied to mission constraints in hostile territory. So she became the bait. She tuned her radio to Miller's personal frequency, the one he used only off books, only when he believed no one else was listening. Her thumb hovered for a second over the transmit switch, a controlled inhale. "Then I have the drive," she said. "Meet me at the old shipyard, midnight. Come alone. Or the files go to the New York Times." She released the switch and let the carrier signal die. The message was crude, transparent, a trap obvious enough to insult a professional. Miller would never come alone. That was the point. The shipyard had been abandoned for years, left to rust and rot along the waterline like a carcass picked clean. Patricia arrived 3 hours early, parking well outside the perimeter and approaching on foot. Wind cut through the skeletal cranes, carrying the smell of salt, oil, and oxidized metal. The place was a maze of stacked containers, collapsed gantries, and hanging cables that swayed faintly overhead. She moved methodically. High-tension lines were repositioned, tensioned just enough to drop under weight. Floodlights were rotated, angles adjusted, bulbs tested and retested. She marked blind spots with quick glances, memorizing sight lines. Kill zones overlapped. Escape routes funneled inward. The environment shifted under her hands, turning from derelict junkyard into controlled terrain. By the time she finished, her jaw ached from clenching it. She climbed to the top of a container stack and waited, the night stretching thin around her. Midnight came without ceremony. 3 black SUVs rolled through the broken gate in a tight formation, engines idling low. Headlights cut across rusted steel, throwing long, warped shadows. The lead vehicle stopped first. Miller stepped out. He looked smaller without the base around him. Civilian jacket, no insignia. His posture was stiff, shoulders set too high. 6 armed men fanned out around him, moving with rehearsed confidence but uneven discipline. Contractors, not soldiers. The middle SUV remained sealed. Tinted glass reflected the shipyard lights like a mirror. Patricia didn't need to see inside to know who was there. "Patricia," Miller called, his voice carrying across the open space, bouncing off containers and cranes. "Let's make a deal. We can cut you in." His hand twitched once near his waistband. A tell, fear masked as authority. Her reply came through the shipyard's PA system. Speakers crackled to life from multiple directions, her voice amplified, disembodied. "You sold out your country for a retirement fund, Miller," she said. "A SEAL never betrays the brotherhood." Miller's jaw tightened visibly. His eyes darted, tracking sound, failing to localize it. Patricia cut the main power line. Darkness slammed down hard, swallowing the yard whole. Shouts erupted immediately, orders overlapping, boots scraping on metal. Someone fired a reflexive shot that rang uselessly into the void. Then the floodlights ignited. White light exploded outward, aimed low and directly into their faces. Men screamed, hands flying up too late. Patricia moved in the chaos, her weapon coming up smooth and precise. She didn't aim center mass. She dismantled. A kneecap shattered. A shoulder spun sideways with a wet crack. A rifle clattered to concrete as fingers went numb. Each shot was controlled, measured, final. Bodies dropped, voices broke, discipline dissolved into panic. Miller fired blindly, rounds sparking uselessly off steel. His breathing went ragged. He turned too slowly. Patricia dropped from above, landing behind him with a muted thud. Her arms snaked around his neck, locking in tight. He struggled, elbows flaring, boots scraping, but she compressed with practiced pressure. His resistance faded in seconds. She eased him down until he went limp. Patricia straightened, chest rising once, hard, then settling. Only one vehicle remained. The armored SUV sat silent, engine still running, windows opaque. She shifted her stance, shoulders squared, eyes fixed on the dark glass. Now it was just her and the man who had built his empire on stolen identities and buried bodies. The SUV lurched backward the instant the driver realized the yard had gone quiet. Tires screamed against concrete, then detonated one after the other as the hidden spikes bit deep. The vehicle fishtailed violently, momentum carrying it sideways until the front end slammed into a concrete pillar with a hollow, bone-jarring impact. The engine coughed, whined, then stalled. Patricia advanced without urgency. Her boots crunched over shattered glass and twisted metal. She kept her rifle high, muzzle steady, eyes tracking reflections in the darkened windows. The passenger door creaked as she yanked it open. Inside, the man who had worn stars and ribbons like armor sat slumped against the seatbelt, blood threading down from a cut at his hairline. His breathing was shallow, ragged, each inhale a visible effort. She brought the butt of the rifle down through the window. Safety glass exploded inward. She reached in, grabbed him by the collar, and hauled him out onto the asphalt. He hit hard, air ripping from his lungs in a wet cough. His uniform, once immaculate, was smeared with oil, dust, and blood. His eyes found hers. "Who are you?" he rasped. The words weren't a challenge. They were a plea. Patricia crouched, close enough to see the tremor in his jaw, the dilation of his pupils as survival instincts finally overwhelmed arrogance. She zip-tied his wrists behind his back with a single, efficient motion, plastic biting into skin. "I'm the nightmare you forgot to check for," she said evenly. "Julian Vargo. I know everything." The name landed. For a heartbeat, fear flickered, then vanished beneath something uglier. Vargo laughed, a bubbling, gurgling sound that drew blood into his mouth. He spat red onto the pavement and looked up at her, eyes bright with certainty. "You can't touch me," he said. "I have contingencies." Patricia didn't move. "If I don't check in every 12 hours, he continued, voice strengthening as confidence returned, a dead man protocol activates. Servers in 3 countries upload data, dumps financials, transcripts, classified exchanges. Half the Senate goes down. They'll protect me to save themselves." The wind moved through the shipyard, rattling loose metal overhead. Somewhere, a man groaned. Patricia listened without reacting, her face unreadable, breath slow and controlled. Vargo smiled through bloodied teeth. "That's the genius of it," he said softly. "I made myself indispensable. You arrest me, you destabilize national security. You kill me and you light the fuse yourself." Patricia rose to her full height. The floodlights cast her shadow long across the concrete, stretching past him, past the wrecked SUV. "You think I care about the Senate?" she asked. Vargo's smile thinned, but didn't disappear. "You're a patriot, Brooks," he said. "You won't burn the country down to get me." He watched her closely then, searching her face for cracks. He found none. Her mouth was set, jaw locked, eyes steady. But he saw the flicker he needed, the fraction of a second where calculation replaced momentum. He smiled again. He believed he had won. Patricia looked down at him, the weight of the moment settling not in her posture, but behind her eyes. She understood the board now, the scope of it. The rot threaded so deeply that pulling him out would tear the structure apart. He was right about one thing. She wouldn't torch the country. The smile stayed on his face as if it were already carved there. He thought that meant she was out of moves. Patricia's rifle lowered first. Then she holstered it with deliberate calm, the click of retention final and unhurried. Vargo watched every movement, his smile still in place but stretched now, uncertain. A faint pulse beat at his temple, visible beneath sweat and blood. "You're right, Julian," Patricia said. "I won't leak the data." The relief hit him before suspicion could catch up. His shoulders sagged a fraction. His breath came easier. He swallowed, lips parting as if to speak. Patricia pulled out her phone. Her thumb moved across the screen with practiced precision. No hesitation. No flourish. The front-facing camera activated, the red indicator lighting up in the dark like a warning flare. Vargo's brow furrowed. "This isn't the news," she said quietly. She angled the phone toward him. On the screen, encrypted channels populated, handles known only in whispers, markets buried beneath layers of anonymization. Private servers. No governments, no courts, only money and consequence. Patricia stepped closer, crouching so the camera framed his face perfectly. His pupils dilated as recognition dawned, breath stuttering in his chest. "You see," she continued, voice steady, almost instructional, "I found your other ledger." She scrolled once. Names, transfers, cross-referenced shipments. "You weren't just selling secrets," she said. "You were selling fake secrets. Counterfeit schematics. Corrupted weapon specs. You've been scamming the cartels and syndicates you thought were too fragmented to compare notes." The color drained from his face so fast it looked unreal. His jaw trembled, teeth chattering once before clamping shut. A sound tore out of him, sharp and broken. "No," he rasped. Then louder, "No, turn it off. Turn it off." Spittle flew as he thrashed against the restraints, zip ties biting deeper into his wrists. His breathing fractured, each inhale shallow and panicked, chest hitching visibly. Patricia didn't flinch. "I just sent them your GPS coordinates," she said, "and I disabled your extraction team." His scream collapsed into a hoarse whimper. The arrogance that had carried him through decades evaporated, leaving only naked terror. His eyes darted wildly, scanning the shipyard as if threats might already be forming in the shadows. Patricia stood. This was not justice delivered by statute or uniform. There would be no arraignment, no sealed testimony, no appeals. She wasn't handing him to a system he had hollowed out from the inside. She was returning him to the ecosystem he had poisoned. Behind her, Miller stirred weakly, a low groan escaping him. Patricia turned, crossed the distance, and dragged him by the collar toward a shipping container already marked and sealed. The mercenaries followed, one by one, hauled or shoved inside. Their protests were muted, confused, powerless. She closed the container doors and secured them with a heavy steel lock. The clang echoed across the yard, final and unforgiving. Patricia walked back to Vargo. He was alone now, kneeling in the open. The floodlights washed over him mercilessly, every tremor exposed. Somewhere far off, engines would already be turning. Phones would be lighting up. Accounts would be checked. Lies compared. Patricia didn't watch him beg. She turned away, shoulders squared, steps measured, the weight on her chest easing not with relief, but with resolution. The night swallowed her silhouette as she moved toward the edge of the yard, leaving Julian Vargo exactly where he belonged. The military police arrived in staggered waves, headlights slicing through the shipyard like surgical lamps in a trauma bay. Sirens cut off one by one, replaced by shouted commands, radios crackling with clipped procedure codes. Boots hit asphalt. Rifles came up, muzzles tracking shadows that no longer moved. By then, the cartels hadn't arrived. They didn't need to. The fear alone had done the work. Julian Vargo was found near the center of the yard, still under the floodlights Patricia had left burning. He no longer looked like an admiral, fake or otherwise. His body had folded inward on itself, knees pulled tight to his chest, arms wrapped around his head as if expecting a blow that never came. His pristine authority had collapsed into something small and animal. When an MP knelt beside him and spoke, Vargo flinched so hard his forehead struck the pavement. A sob tore out of him, raw and uncontrolled. His words came in a rush, slurred and overlapping, breath hitching between confessions. He begged to be arrested, not negotiated with, not protected, arrested. He spilled everything before they finished reading him his rights. Identity theft spanning decades, homicides masked as accidents, blackmail files buried in classified systems, transfers of naval weapons intelligence routed through shell corporations and offshore accounts. Names followed names, each one delivered with shaking urgency, as if speed alone might buy him safety. When they mentioned federal custody, his eyes snapped up, bloodshot and wild. He nodded violently, agreeing to anything. Solitary confinement, black site detention, concrete walls and steel doors. Anything that put distance between him and the people he had stolen from. He gave them Miller without hesitation, described the channels, the authorizations, the clearance overrides, the quiet signatures pushed through secure systems under the guise of routine counterintelligence. He burned every remaining bridge himself, fingers clawing at the ground as if digging toward absolution. In the tree line overlooking the yard, Patricia watched. She kept her breathing shallow, timed with the night wind moving through the branches. Her jaw stayed locked, molars pressed tight enough to ache. Through binoculars, she saw Miller led out of the container, wrists cuffed behind his back. His shoulders sagged, spine curved forward, the posture of a man who knew exactly when the last line had been crossed. He didn't look around, didn't look for her. The MPs guided him toward a transport vehicle. The rear door closed with a metallic thud that echoed longer than it should have. That was the sound of inevitability. Patricia lowered the binoculars. The justice system would take it from here: courts, hearings, sealed indictments, but only because she had forced the machinery to engage. Left alone, it would have stalled, corroded quietly, protected its own. She moved back through the trees, careful where she placed her boots, avoiding dry branches. Her car waited where she'd left it, dust-coated and unremarkable. She slid into the driver's seat and closed the door without sound. For a moment, she sat there, hands resting on the steering wheel, fingers still curled as if around a trigger. Her pulse slowed incrementally, each beat measured, controlled. Her phone buzzed once. She glanced down. An unknown number. Well played, Senior Chief. But you know you can never come back. She stared at the screen. No reaction crossed her face, but her thumb paused for a fraction of a second before moving. She deleted the message. No reply, no acknowledgement. She knew. Her career was finished. Her trident, earned through blood and attrition, would never be worn again. She had stepped outside the chain of command, outside the law, and forced the truth into the open with methods that would never be officially endorsed. But the symbol mattered more than the institution. She started the engine. As the car pulled away, the shipyard lights receded in the rearview mirror, shrinking until they were just another glow swallowed by distance. Patricia didn't look back again. She had protected the trident. That would have to be enough. Patricia sat alone in the corner booth of the diner, her back naturally angled toward the wall, eyes catching reflections in the chrome napkin dispenser rather than staring outright. The habit hadn't left her. 6 months hadn't been enough to kill muscle memory carved in blood and salt water. Her hair fell past her shoulders now, darker from neglect, pulled back loosely with none of the precision regulations once demanded. Civilian clothes, worn soft at the edges, concealed a posture that still carried weight spine straight, shoulders squared, movements economical. The smell of grease and burned coffee hung in the air. Outside, Montana stretched wide and indifferent, mountains fading into low cloud. On the television bolted above the counter, a muted news segment rolled beneath yellow subtitles. The anchor's mouth moved, but Patricia didn't need sound to recognize the image. A courtroom sketch filled the screen. Vargo sat slumped at the defense table, his shoulders collapsed inward, jaws softened, eyes hollowed by months of fluorescent light and concrete walls. The uniform he had once worn like stolen armor was gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit that swallowed his frame. The Chiron read, "Former disgraced Admiral and accomplices sentenced to life. Without parole, Supermax transfer confirmed. Safe, technically." Patricia's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly as she watched. Supermax was not mercy. It was sensory deprivation measured in decades, 23 hours a day in a reinforced cell. No human contact beyond gloved hands and muffled voices. For a man who had fed on authority, who had lived to be seen, saluted and obeyed, it was a slow erasure. A living burial. The waitress appeared without asking, refilling Patricia's cup. The ceramic clicked softly against the saucer. "Anything else, hun?" she asked, already half turned away. Patricia's fingers curled around the mug, feeling the heat seep into her skin. Her thumb paused against a hairline crack in the glaze. "No," she said evenly. "Just the check." The waitress nodded and moved off. The bell over the door jingled, sharp and out of place. Patricia didn't look up. She didn't have to. A shadow crossed the table. The vinyl seat creaked as someone slid into the booth opposite her. He moved with practiced casualness, no hesitation, no wasted motion, but there was restraint there too. Not military, not law enforcement. Something quieter. Something that didn't need rank insignia to command space. "Patricia Brooks," the man said, voice low, neutral. He wore a tailored suit that didn't quite belong in a roadside diner, but he wore it without arrogance. His eyes tracked her face, not intrusive, just attentive. "You're a hard woman to find." Patricia stirred her coffee once, slowly. The spoon rang against porcelain, then stopped. She didn't meet his gaze. "I'm not looking for work." A flicker passed through his expression. Not surprise, but confirmation. He had expected the answer. "We know," he said. "You burned every bridge behind you." Her lips pressed together. The news anchor's image changed behind him, but Patricia's attention stayed forward, fixed on the surface of the coffee as if it held answers. He leaned back slightly, giving her space. "But we have a problem," he continued. "There are more of them. More imposters. More compromised credentials buried deep enough that audits don't catch them. They wear the right uniforms. They speak the language. Everyone sees a hero." Patricia's fingers tightened around the mug. The faintest tremor ran through her knuckles before she stilled them. In her mind, she saw Vargo again, not the broken man in the sketch. But the way he had stood, chin lifted, trident gleaming on his chest like a stolen crown. The man across from her watched the micro-shift in her posture. "We need someone who notices what doesn't fit," he said quietly. "Someone who can smell a lie in a room full of medals. We need a ghost." Patricia finally looked up. Her eyes were steady, clear, and utterly unwelcoming. For a moment, the diner noise seemed to recede, the clatter of plates, the hiss of the grill leaving only the space between them. Anger surfaced there, cold and controlled, layered beneath discipline, not rage, purpose. She thought of the trident, what it meant, what it was supposed to mean. She lifted the cup, took a measured sip, then set it down with care. The corner of her mouth moved, not a smile, not quite, but something hardened, resolved. A professional's acknowledgement of a mission she had never really left. "I have conditions," she said. The man nodded once. He didn't ask what they were. He already knew she would name them. The screen cut to black. "If you want to see what happens next, where this new mission leads, and what price it demands, subscribe to the channel and stay with the story."